Last week in Toronto, Al Unser Jr. won his 6th IndyCar race. All 6 have been on road courses. That victory vaulted little Al into 2nd place in the point standings and to 1st place with David Letterman.
You're hot. You're coming off a win last weekend in Canada. Any predictions for the race?
Sure, we're going to smoke them.
All right. Sure, it's the Meadowlands Grand Prix today on NBC Sports World.
Today, it's the 5th running of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Young Michael Andretti found the wall that year. But his father, Mario, concerned and determined, took the inaugural title. NBC placed a car cam aboard Jeff Brabham's car, and Jeff placed his car into the wall. Mario Andretti, the defending champion, had to walk home. And little Al Unser was the winner. It was his 2nd IndyCar victory. Bobby Rahal and Danny Sullivan battled for the title. First, Rahal closed the door on Sullivan. Then Danny got the edge on Rahal. They bumped, and Sullivan went on to win. The car cam was on board with Michael Andretti. Bobby Rahal won the Meadowlands Grand Prix and took over 1st place in the driver's standings en route to his 2nd consecutive national title. Today, from the Meadowlands Sports Complex of New Jersey, it's the 5th Meadowlands Grand Prix.
Is NBC's Sports World. And today it's brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Toyota. There's quality, then there's Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more? By Sure Antiperspirant. Get Sure and be just as sure about odor as you are about wetness. And by Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1. Isn't your car worth the extra protection?
Welcome to the Meadowlands Sports Complex of New Jersey, just across from the island of Manhattan. The weather part of the story here today. It rained last night, overcast today, still a possibility of rain here. I'm Charlie Jones, and welcome to the 5th running of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Part of the story here, the closeness of the IndyCar driver race, perhaps the closest in history. Let's go back to a week ago, just before Toronto. You'll notice that Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan were tied for the championship lead at that point. Little Al Unser in 6th place. Michael Andretti was in 8th, 15 points off of the lead. Well, Little Al won at Toronto, and Danny Sullivan finished 2nd. So the standings today show Danny Sullivan in the lead, but Little Al has jumped all the way to 2nd place. And only 21 points separate the top 8 drivers. So a couple of good finishes, and you can take over the lead because you have 20 points for 1st, 16 for 2nd, 14, 12, 10, and on down the line. And joining me on today's telecast here at the Meadowlands, 3-time world driving champion Jackie Stewart. An exciting driver's race.
I think more competitive than everyone expected, and I'm very impressed over here by the CART IndyCar series. It really is close racing, and here particularly, first of all, we've got 2 world champions on the front of the grid. That's Emerson Fittipaldi on pole with Mario Andretti alongside him, and that's the first time that's ever happened over here. The other point is that the first 6 cars, Charlie, are within 0.24 of a second. Now, of course, it's a very short lap, only about 38 seconds, but that's very close racing.
short lap, and it is a new course here.
Completely new, yes. What they've done here is changed it more to look like an oval track than before. It was very much a road course before. Now it's a 1.2-mile circuit instead of the 1.68 miles that we've known in the past. Let's have a look round the track. First of all, the stadium straight there where the start line and finishing line is. Then they go through a left-hander getting to Mears Corner. That's a fast left-hand bend going into wetland straightaway where they get up to a speed of about 169 miles an hour before braking heavily for Andretti turn. From second to third gear into arena chicane. Very tight and very narrow. That's one of the big problems here before accelerating along again to Parkway Sweeper that brings us back onto Stadium Straight where the cars again will be getting up to about 170 miles an hour.
And you notice the names of two very famous drivers. Well, one got a turn and the other got a corner. Rick Mears and Mario Andretti involved in laying out the new course here. Now let's go back in time and visit with them as they walk the course.
But
it is a key corner.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, if you can get it working through here, it's...
I felt, in fact, that this was going to be, you know, the corner where you really grit your teeth, but you can't. It seemed like it's like an in-between.
Yeah.
Like you have an approach here that really invites you to carry a lot of speed. And right here, right at this sign is where you're making the corner, and that's when the road leaves you.
And it rolls away, yeah. Do you catch yourself ducking for that sign?
Yeah, yeah, because you really dive for it.
I don't know how it's going to be as far as getting off of here. You know, if a guy's going to be able to get enough run at somebody, if you can get off this well enough
and to
get a run at him before, it's going to be a short span.
Yeah, that's the...
It gets a little touchy.
Well, it's got to be just right.
It's one of those borderline.
Yeah, exactly. But it's quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's quick, yeah.
It'll be a good area for the spectators right there.
Oh, I think this is awesome.
Let's see, best seat in the house.
It's a good spot. A lot of action, I think, you're going to see through here.
Yeah.
The best seat in the house is now with Jackie Stewart, who's going to take us around this new course with Rick Mears and his car cam.
So Rick Mears comes on to the Stadium Straight. He now engages fifth gear, very fast, 170 miles an hour as he goes along here. Gentle right-hander before he has to brake heavily down into third gear for Mears Corner, his own corner. It gets very narrow on the way out and he gets very close to the wall. Again, one of the fastest parts here, wetlands straight away, up to again 170 miles an hour. Heavy braking here as he gets into Andretti turn. It's second gear. He accelerates hard in second gear, up into third gear. You can see his right hand using the gear shift as he now brakes very heavily for arena chicane. Only down to about 50 miles an hour there. He accelerates hard past the pits and goes right through Parkway Sweeper onto Stadium Straight at 170.
And that's Jackie Stewart at 170 miles an hour. Let's go down to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Well, Charlie, one of the teams that has quickly adapted to this new circuit at the Meadowlands is the Porsche entry, and Teo Fabi being the driver. Since Porsche first got involved in motorsports some 40 years ago, they have compiled an amazing record of performance and, of course, success. But since getting involved in IndyCar racing late last season, there's been a lot of frustration. Progress has been slow, and frankly, the results have not met expectations. The best they've qualified coming to the Meadowlands this year was 9th. Their best finish is 7th. But here, today, on the grid, Teo Fabi starts third, and he's only 0.07 of a second behind the pole sitter Emerson Fittipaldi. So there's encouraging news, and it looks like the diligent development work by Al Holbert and all of this Porsche team is now starting to pay off. They're hoping, along with Fabi, that this could prove to be a breakthrough weekend here at the Meadowlands for Porsche, a name long synonymous with success in motorsports. Now, I mentioned Emerson Fittipaldi on the pole. Our pit colleague, Sally Larvick, stands by now in his pit.
Thank you, Gary. This is the first time in 2 years that Emerson Fittipaldi has sat on the pole, and he, along with the other drivers, recognize how important pit stops are going to be in today's race. Last year, Bobby Rahal was able to up his position from third to first during a pit stop, something he would not have been able to accomplish during the race. So if that's the case, then Emerson Fittipaldi may have an advantage for two reasons. First of all, when Emerson comes into the pits, he doesn't take on drink or he doesn't take on refreshment like some of the other drivers do. Therefore, they save save precious time that is many times spent by the team waiting for their driver to finish the drink before they push him out onto the track. Secondly, the team has devised a signal with Emerson whereby when the fuel tank is being topped, they signal Emerson. He and then puts the car in gear, and the machine is ready to go even before the car is taken down off the jacks. Seems like minor occurrences, but could prove crucial in crucial pit stops. Charlie?
Okay. Thank you, Sally. And now for those words that we have been waiting for to start the day.
Gentlemen, start your engines. And now,
and with those 4 words, we start the roar of 25 engines: Chevrolet, Cosworth, Judd, Porsche, all the state-of-the-art as IndyCar racing, the space age of sports, a technological battle involving expensive and complex equipment, advanced aerodynamic design, mechanical genius, and old-fashioned craftsmanship with exotically modern materials. But it is still a physical sport. The drivers exquisite athletes, where it takes enormous strength and precise timing to drive an Indy car for 2 solid hours. And so we are ready to do battle here at the Meadowlands. Let's take a look at the field. On the pole is Emerson Fittipaldi with a speed of 112.045 miles per hour. Outside row 1, Mario Andretti, who has won twice this year at Phoenix and at Cleveland. Row 2, Teo Fabi. He led the Friday qualifying, but was outrun yesterday. Outside row 2, Danny Sullivan, who leads the PPG points race. Row 3, Rick Mears, who has won twice this year, the Indy 500 and at Milwaukee. And outside row 3, Al Unser Jr., he's also won twice, Long Beach and last week at Toronto. Row 4, Raul Boisel, who leads all drivers in 1988 with 6 top 10 finishes. Outside, Didier Taze, last year's ARS champion. Row 5 is Michael Andretti with an excellent 4th place in the Indy 500. Outside, Bobby Rahal, the defending champion here at the Meadowlands. Row 6, Ari Lyondike. He hit the wall on Friday. He's in his backup car. Outside is Derek Daly. He had clutch problems last week at Toronto, and he finished 23rd. Row 7, Howdy Holmes, back this year after missing 1986 and 1987. Outside, John Andretti had an engine fire in the pits last week at Toronto. He completed only 29 laps. Row 8, A.J. Foyt. This is his 327th IndyCar start. That's the record. Outside row 8, Scott Pruitt. This is only his 2nd IndyCar start. Row 9, Al Unser Sr., good finish last week, 9th in a car that hasn't been that competitive. Outside, Scott Atchison, 2nd in the rookie point standings. Row 10 is John Jones, who is leading the rookie point standings. Outside, Scott Brayton, whose best finish this year, 9th at Portland. Row 11th, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., struggling this year. He has not been competitive. Outside is Rocky Moran, 12th at Toronto in his backup car. Row 12, Randy Lewis. He hit the wall in Toronto, and outside is Tony Bettenhausen Jr. He is more comfortable on the ovals than on the road courses. And row 13, the sponsor's option, Dale Coyne, with the only stock block Chevrolet engine in the field. And we're now on board with our car cam. That is Rick Mears. He is inside row 3. This is the 5th running of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back at the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti out in front. And Jackie, the keys to this event.
The key for me, first of all, are brakes. Wear and tear in brakes, they're going to overheat. It's going to be a real problem for a lot of the drivers. Look out for even the front runners having that. Second key for me is lapping slower cars. After about 10 laps, we're going to see trouble, and that could make or break the race for a lot of people. But as ever, the opening lap for me will be the main key for this race, because the chicane is not only very tight and very slow, but it's also very narrow, Charlie. Look out for cars coming together on that first lap.
And we get set for green, 150 laps. The honorary starter is Ed McQuigg. And we've got the green flag. And it is Emerson Fittipaldi with Mario Andretti driving right in behind him. Then it's Danny Sullivan and Tao Fabi. Rick Mears is in 6th.
Very tight through the first corner there. That's Mears. They're now accelerating up to about 170 miles an hour. And we've got one of the cars stopped on the right-hand side. It looks as if he's run against Derek Daly's. Looks as if he's hard against the wall. And in fact, it's one of the young Andretti's.
John
Andretti. They must have come together. That's the problem. But in the meantime, it's still Fittipaldi that seems to be in the lead. And look at that locking up wheel. That was
Bobby
Rahal in that chicane.
And they'll come by the start-finish line. And thus far, it is just a local yellow. It is not a full course yellow. And in road course, they can run the rest of the course. And there's John Andretti. He is out of his car as the leaders go by him. And it is Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan, Joe Fabi, Al Unser Jr., and Rick Mears. And one of the things you were concerned about, Jackie, is early in the race is that there would be problems.
Indeed it is, and that's Derek Daly now rising out of the cockpit. He had sat in the car for a long time, almost for a lap there. He didn't want to get out. You can see the front wing is damaged in his car, but the rest of the car doesn't seem to be too badly damaged. I suspect he stalled it, but it's certainly stuck on the side of the racetrack. He's well out of it. The white flag being shown there is slow cars. It's a yellow flag, I think, probably is danger. Be prepared. It could be that we've got a situation here that we're still under racing conditions. There's been no slowing down at the present time. The yellow is only a local yellow. Emerson Fittipaldi has stretched that lead very considerably. There's Mario Andretti. Keep in mind this is about a 38-second lap, and now the yellow's coming out for the full course.
I'm surprised it took him so long to come to a full course yellow, particularly this early in the race.
Well, I don't know. There weren't any blocked situations. It may be that the marshals cannot remove the cars easily, and therefore, for their safety and security, they've decided to put the full course yellow. And there is Derek Daly, a very disappointed Irishman. He's raced in almost every formula around the world, as Derek. Had a bad accident a couple of years ago. And here's a replay of this first corner incident. We'll look at the middle of the pack there as they look as if they're coming together. Let's see if we can spot the actual incident itself. It's just a little further back there. And there it is. It takes place there. And there you see Daly's car is the red car, and John Andretti is the blue and green car. It seems that they just rubbed themselves against that wall. The wall is very unforgiving, concrete, and of course the racetrack is quite narrow. It narrows to about 30 feet at that point. At the start-finishing line, it's about 60 feet, so it's going into a tunnel. As we, of course, now look over the shoulder of Rick Mears, driving, of course, one of the Roger Penske entered cars.
And we are under a full course yellow. The standings after the first 3 laps. Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Al Unser Jr. We'll be back in a moment. We're still under the full course yellow. The signal is 1 lap to go. Emerson Fittipaldi, earlier this week we asked you about traffic on this Meadowlands course. Will it be the biggest problem?
In my opinion, the toughest thing is going to happen in the race will be the traffic. Because we have only, we are lapping less than 40 seconds. Only after a few laps we will be catching the back markers. And I think this is going to be the whole race situation.
Emerson Fittipaldi thinking that when they run into traffic is going to be the most important part of the race. Well, for John Andretti and Derek Daly, the most important part of the race is already over. And that is they got into early trouble and went against the wall in Mears' corner. But now everything is strung out under the yellow, so when we get the restart, Jackie, it won't be that congested. We also have a car cam on little Al Unser Jr.'s car.
Now they're coming up for the green flag, and it's off.
And it is Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, Teo Bobby, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., and Rick Mears. Kind of string through Mears' corner and head for the wetlands straight, and this is where the speeds will reach around 169 miles an hour.
Danny Sullivan getting inside Mario Andretti. Danny Sullivan takes command of second place. That was a quick move by him. It wasn't an easy place to pass, and he got Mario, who must have been a little bit asleep because Mario doesn't let many people pass in the early laps.
Joe So it is Fittipaldi, Sullivan, and Andretti. That is Mario Andretti now running third. Dale Fabi is in fourth. Al Unser Jr., Rick Mears, Raul Boisel, Didier Tays, Michael Andretti, and Bobby Rahal. A quick rundown of the top 10. Once you string out like this on the course, how many places are there to pass?
Well, really, there's only probably one place to pass, and that's going in to the end of Wetland Straight. You could get ducked under there going in under braking. And that's why I found it so surprising that Mario had been passed quite as early as he was, because there's not many places in this racetrack to pass. It's very bumpy as the heavy brake into Mears corner, so it's not a likely place to pass. But it certainly is possible when they go down to Andretti turn.
There's Dale Coyne in a Chevrolet stock block, the only Chevrolet stock block. And he is going to be the first back marker that they'll be coming on.
And, of course, he'll be given a blue flag to let him know that people are coming up behind him. And Rick Mears there with his on-car camera. Tremendous. And that's Al Jr., car number 3 you can see there, who is tucked in behind. So Al Jr., in fact, has hopped ahead of him. So Rick Mears has lost a position from that starting point. As they go past the start-finishing line up into 5th gear here, 170 miles an hour. A very Indy-like corner. Of course, it's a left-hand racetrack, this. And there you see the yellow car, the Penske car, number 5 of Rick Mears, winner of this year's Indianapolis 500. And he lost a lot of ground in young Al there.
Rick Mears in 6th as we move forward. It is Al Unser Jr., Bobby, Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi leads by 1.4 seconds over Danny Sullivan.
And in fact, you're going to have to look out a little bit for Theo Fabi, because he's looking for a way to get past Mario Andretti also. This is a good race going on here. Mears getting a little loose as he came out there. The back end of the car sliding out. You can see the car was almost a little loose on that corner also. Danny Sullivan closing slightly on Emerson Fittipaldi. Theo Fabi and the green and white car closing on the white car of Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti's number 6.
And Mario Andretti had trouble at the start of the race in Toronto last week, and is he having problems here?
It doesn't look like the same problem. That was electrical. It was an engine problem. It just wasn't picking up correctly. That doesn't look like the problem today.
So it is Mario Andretti currently running in 3rd place. Andretti started outside on row 1. He has won 3 of the 5 pole positions here at the Meadowlands. This, of course, the 5th Meadowlands Grand Prix as we head now towards Mears Corner. Leader speed just over 108 miles an hour.
Mario settling in, a driver of enormous experience, someone you could never rule out on any road course. He's a driver I much admire, particularly when it comes to working traffic. He's very aggressive, but of course he's got that weight of knowledge that so many of the other drivers simply do not have.
When we come further in the race and they start going into the pits, now Mario is at the far right end of the pits. He will be one of the first ones as they come in. The other leaders are at the left end of the pits.
Yes,
is that going to make a difference?
I think that Mario has a slight advantage being in the part of the racetrack which is slow when he goes into the pits. He's the first car in line. He can get up to speed before he exits the pits, but if you were watching last week's telecast, there is a regulation relating to leaving the pits so that they don't cross the line. And by the way, we're looking, of course, at young Al Unser's on-car camera. He's tucked right behind Theo Fabi here. That's Theo Fabi. There's a slower car right now. That's Coyle that they're overtaking.
And as we mentioned earlier, they're starting to pick up the back markers. This is the point of the race where Emerson Fittipaldi said that it would be run when you start running into traffic into what they call the back markers, the slower cars.
One of the keys that we were speaking about, and here's the on-car camera again. I think young Al Unser's lining him up for a pass. He's a very aggressive driver, is young Al. He's very quick, and look, this Porsche has become very competitive. Now you're trying to go on the inside, now break him. The Porsche's not giving him the space, but that's the move that he's got to make, and that's the right place to do it. Young Al, I think, will pass Theo Fabi before too many more laps.
And Al Unser Jr., all of his wins, all 6 wins, have come on road courses. He's still looking for his first oval course victory, so he's very comfortable, as we saw last week in the car is working exceptionally well.
I'm very impressed by him. I really do think he's a great driver for the future. He's already arrived, of course, but I think there's more to come from Al Unser Jr.
You'd like to see him race in Europe, Formula One.
Yes, I would, but I think he wants to fully establish himself over here by winning the big IndyCar races, the ovals as well as the road courses. Now, the Porsche does seem to take advantage of him on acceleration there, and he seems to be closing up under braking. He'll have to be aware that his brakes could cause him a little bit of trouble, and I think he'll have to think a little bit about that, because brakes, as I said, could be one of the keys for this race. Now he's got a little bit closer as he went through the slower part of the track. Now they're on this big sweeper leading on to the start-finishing line straight.
Do we need some yellow flags to save the brakes?
Well, the yellow flag would certainly help, there's no question. But I do believe the drivers themselves will have to keep in mind that they're not going to abuse their brakes. Emerson Fittipaldi, our leader, the red and white car, car number 20, of course, has won the World Championship on 2 previous occasions. Fastest lap for him is 107 miles an hour. In practice, of course, in qualifying, they were up to 111.
And he is leading by 2.5 seconds over Danny Sullivan. Then it's Mario Andretti. Bobby, Al Unser Jr., Little Al, is in 5th place. We'll be back in a moment. We are back at the Meadowlands as Mario Andretti, trying to use some of the back markers, has set up Danny Sullivan. Sullivan shuts the door on him as Andretti chases him through Mears Corner.
Oh, Danny can just take a deep breath and say, thank you very much. I nearly lost my 2nd place there. I dare to suggest if Andretti gets through, and he's making that
and
move,
he's under him. He's got him here.
He's done it at Andretti. Going in, and there you see the Porsche. It was nearly passed by Al Jr., and I think Mario will draw away now from Danny Sullivan. You watch him take advantage now. Look at the gap he's opened up just there, and watch that Porsche and young Al. They're going to be right on the heels now of Danny Sullivan. And when a racing driver is passed under those circumstances, he can be put out of synchronization. And look at young Al, he's going for it. No, can't do it there. It's too bumpy. It's not easy to pass right there. But the driver loses his timing a little bit. In the meantime, look at Andretti's white car way out in front. He's taken an advantage.
Raul Boisel has come into the pits as the racing continues outside, and it is Little Al moving past Theo Bobby as he set him up and took him.
Well, I think conditioning may come into it here, incidentally, as this race goes on, because there's a lot of laps here, and I think young Al Unser Jr. is going to be a lot fitter than Theo Fabi, and that may come out at the Meadowlands to be a big part of this race. Sullivan is fit. I think Emerson Fittipaldi, he's used to the sun from Brazil. He's fit. I think fitness could play a part. Young Al Unser is a very strong and fit young man.
He started 6th. He is currently 4th. Emerson Fittipaldi comfortably in the lead. Let's go down to Gary Gerald. Gary?
Charlie, suddenly they're laying out for Theo Fabi. We've been standing in the pit when Boisel came in. It was a little earlier than we anticipated. It didn't sound like that engine was running smoothly, but the crew suddenly scrambled over the wall for Fabi. We're trying to look up the line. We don't see him, so we'll go back up to you, Charlie.
He comes by the pit entrance, and so he is not coming in at this time, as Al Unser Jr., Little Al, has been setting up Danny Sullivan. Sullivan comfortably in 2nd with everybody chasing him. Now he's dropped to 3rd. If he doesn't look out, he'll be in 4th.
The place to do it is at the end of this straight. You watch him. He'll try and go in the inside. Watch it now. Sullivan's staying in the middle of the road, not giving him a lot of room. Like, young Al, go for it now, and he's done it. Young Al Unser brings himself into 2nd place. It is the place to pass on this racetrack.
Why did Sullivan stay outside? He knew that if he was going to pass him, he'd have to come inside on it.
Yes, but he did it correctly. Danny Sullivan is driving with the correct etiquette. He could have moved into the inside. If it had been the last lap, he would have done that. But this early in the race, it would not be correct for him to do that. So now you're looking from the motor car that is looking towards trying to make up ground in Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi is leading this race comfortably now, but young Al Unser is the man.
With the pass of Danny Sullivan that you saw and that Jackie set up, is that Al Unser Jr. has moved into 3rd. So it is Emerson Fittipaldi comfortably in 1st. Mario Andretti is 2nd. Al Unser Jr., Little Al is in 3rd. Danny Sullivan, who was in 2nd not too long ago, has dropped back to 4th. Theo Fabi is 5th. Then it's Rick Mears, Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt, Raul Boisel, A.J. Boyd, and Al Unser. 21 of 25 starters are still running in the race with 42 laps complete now for Emerson Fittipaldi. And let's go down to Sally.
Charlie, with me is Carl Huss. Carl, exits off every lap and tells how that particular lap went, and things seem to be going well for you now, Carl.
Well, we're running second at the moment. We got trapped in traffic a little bit behind Danny Sullivan, so we'll just have to see how it goes.
And Mario should be pitting any minute now.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Mario should be pitting any minute.
Well, fairly soon, yes.
Okay, Carl Haas, as you can see, he's very intense. He's very superstitious. He X's off every lap, and he pounds on the paper just to be sure. Charlie?
And that is number 55, Scott Atchison, last year's Super B champion in the pits. He is driving for Machinist and for Otter Pops. He's an avid bicyclist. You know, the Tour de France ended today. And one of his goals, he rides 200 miles a week on bicycles, and he wants to ride someday in the Tour de France. Right now, he is riding here at the Meadowlands. Raoul Boisel in the pits.
Well, he's had trouble. He had trouble fairly early on, and he's in the pits right now having a look at things. It looks a rather casual pit stop.
It really is, isn't it? As we go back out to the leader.
And there's Emerson Fittipaldi coming up behind now. It looks like Michael Andretti.
Michael Andretti, yes, the Krakow car.
And the leader, of course, with the Marlboro sponsorship, he's looking for a win here because today in the German Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna was first, Alain Prost was second. They're both Marlboro cars, so they're looking for a big weekend if Emerson Fittipaldi wins here in the Meadowlands.
And he goes roaring by Michael Andretti. Fittipaldi's lead is 11.6 seconds. And he is running so well, it just every lap he increases his lead. Now it's 12.4.
Well, I think he's driving in a beautiful fashion. Emerson, of course, a very experienced driver, someone I've raced against a great deal, someone I've admired as a racing driver very much, seen him at very close quarters, and he is tough. He's a very well-matured racing driver. He's not a chicken anymore, as we keep kidding on to each other, but he's certainly a driver of world standing.
When we were in the garage with him yesterday, he had his little daughter, Juliana, who's just a year and a half old, in the cockpit taking pictures, and you said, don't do that, she may want to be a driver one day.
Well, his eldest daughter, who's now 14 years of age, does want to become a racing driver, which is an awful bad news for him. She's starting with kart racing, or go-kart racing, down in South Africa she is at the present time, but she wants to go racing. What an awful nightmare. I've got a son who drove today, actually.
How did he do?
He finished fourth today. He went off the road, restarted, managed to get fourth, but a disappointed young Stewart on the telephone.
Let's go down to Gary Gerald in the pit. Gary?
Charlie, two quick notes. Raoul Boisel sits in the cockpit of his car. They're working with the fuel management system. They had a leak this morning. They made a change in the bladder of the fuel management system, got it out just in time to grid the car, but they'd had problems through the afternoon. The false alarm for Teo Fabi, he radioed in that the handling had changed on his car. He thought about a pit stop. He did not make it. So we're still looking ahead to our first regularly scheduled stop, Charlie.
Okay, we understand that Mario is going to pit in 10 laps. Lap 56, as that is the schedule right now for Mario Andretti as far as his first schedule pit.
And look at this traffic jam around here. Mario Andretti is part
Danny
of that
Sullivan
traffic.
is in the pits. Danny Sullivan has come in. And Sullivan came in. He was in fourth place, but remember, everybody started passing. They're changing all four tires. And we're watching to see if there's anything else.
He's talking in his radio. You can see his head moving around as he was talking to his crew chief while being able to take a breath.
Almost 17 seconds on that pit stop. 16:55 unofficially that we have it. As he comes out, that line coming out of the pits, he had two tires over on the right side. You can do that. In Toronto last week, he had four tires over coming out of the pit. And that cost him a stop-and-go penalty. It cost him a total of about 16 seconds. And that meant that little Al Unser, who was leading at the time, he couldn't take a run at him. By the way, we're watching now on board the camera of little Al Unser. We had that pit violation at Toronto last week. Cost him a stop-and-go, as I said. Did not cost him the race. Cost him an opportunity to win the race. This is a week ago. Now watch as he comes out.
He accelerated it and he crossed the line with all four wheels. Even though it was just towards the end of the line, it was still a violation because they had been told at the drivers' meeting they were not going to be allowed to do that.
And interesting, today at the drivers' meeting, because of the configuration of the pit, they said, well, we can let you, if you want to, just come out and avoid the traffic. And they said, no, let's go with the same rule that we had last week.
And there's little Al Unser has taken second place under Mario Andretti at Andretti Turn. My goodness, Mario did it to Sullivan there. Now young Al has done it to him. Young Unser Jr., that by the way is Danny Sullivan, who is just about to be lapped. He's already been lapped by Fittipaldi. Now the second place runner is going to try and put a lap on him. He's got fresh tires on, so young Al will pass him. Andretti Sr.'s trying to get through as well. Sullivan closed the door on him a little bit. Mario now, you see what can happen with traffic. And of course, Danny doesn't really want to be lapped by anybody. He wants to stay on the same lap as many people as possible. Mario gets through also.
Sullivan then is having problems because he was running well, exceptionally well last week. And he was in second here, but he just continued to drop back. He has not really been challenging anybody. He's been playing defensive driver.
Well, I think now the big risk will be that a yellow flag comes out because they've already taken a lap on him, and of course he pitted under the green flag situation. But there is the story. It's amazing. Young Al Unser really came up, really gobbled up the racetrack to pass Mario Andretti, but keep in mind, Andretti Sr. is a wily old man of motor racing. He probably is nursing his brakes and keeping himself in good shape.
After 51 of 150 laps complete, Emerson Fittipaldi leading Al Unser Jr. now by just over 17 seconds. Let's go to Gary.
Rick Mears into the pits, fresh rubber all the way around. He revs the engine as they top off with fuel. They'll shortly be able to get that critical first fuel reading. Rick Mears, who hasn't won on a road course since 1982, would love to do it today, and he's out in under 15 seconds. Good stop for the Penske crew and Rick Mears.
And we were talking with Roger Penske yesterday about Rick Mears. Is he a better oval driver than he is a road car racer? And he said, no, not really. He said what he does in the ovals, he can set the car up so much better. He has such a knack of setting the car up for the ovals. Doesn't quite have that knack. Let's go down to Sally.
Our leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, into the pits. As we mentioned earlier, he does not take on drink nor refreshment. That gives him a little extra time. They're changing all 4 tires, refueling the cars. You notice the tap on the head. That's the signal that the fuel is almost finished into the tank, and Emerson Fittipaldi is off.
16.2 seconds. Jackie?
Let's look for that white light.
You're watching him come out of the pits. Yes, he was very close.
That's very important because he was accelerating out there as he comes ahead of Rick Mears. So he's kept himself a lap. He's in the same lap. He's kept ahead of Rick. He was in the pits also. There's little Al, who is now leading this race. Al Unser Jr.
This is the 5th running of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. We'll be back with more of our action in just a moment. Mario Andretti is in the pits. We're back at the Meadowlands.
Now let's watch what happens here. Mario Andretti taking a drink, throwing that plastic bottle out. Looks like they're having trouble getting the wheel off in the right rear.
Sally's down there. Sally, can you tell what's happening?
Charlie, they are having trouble getting the right rear tire off the car.
Oh, this is a disaster in the making.
They finally got it on, and Mario Andretti is off. This is going to mean trouble for the Andretti pit.
28.5 seconds. Now watch him go out. Oh, he spent the line. Here's the line coming out of the pit that he has to stay inside, so he's okay.
Yeah, and keep in mind that he was at the early part of the pits. That's a disastrous stop for Mario Andretti. That is not going to be a happy man.
And not a happy camper. Al Unser Jr. is in the pit. We have a report that Mario's crew was not ready for him. Al Unser's crew is ready as he comes back out.
Now, this is the on-camera. Let's have a look at the line as we see it from the driver's point of view. There's the yellow line. Young Al stayed certainly with 2 wheels. The left 2 wheels were definitely in good shape.
Easy to see, though, from a driver's standpoint. Not that difficult to stay within the rules.
If you remember, but the adrenaline pumps, and you don't always think of some of the details that you consider may not be of great importance. Now they know it's important because of what happened in Toronto last week, if you were watching our NBC coverage. And here, of course, is our leader.
Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's go down to Gary Jarrell.
Charlie, there was a problem for Danny Sullivan. It's one that you don't often see in IndyCar racing. But remember, this is a new racetrack for the most part. There was new paving, and tire wear wasn't thought to be a concern. But Danny Sullivan blistered one of his rear tires. That's why he was dropping back when he was chasing Emerson Fittipaldi. It's the first incident that we've seen this weekend of a blistered tire. Getting all that horsepower to the ground and an abrasive new surface took a toll early in the race for Sullivan.
Oh, it really did, Jackie.
Well, what you're looking at there is temperature. It's not actually tire wear. It's because of the friction concern with the wheels spinning. Not because there's good grip, actually because there's not very good grip. And the wheels spin, and when the wheels spin with 750 brake horsepower, they put the temperature of the tires up and they sometimes blister. So because the tire maker does not know the race circuit from past experience, they're guessing at their compound.
And Emerson Fittipaldi, as you can see, has completely dominated this race. He now leads by almost 15 seconds. Everything is really working. That's almost half a lap.
Well, he's certainly driving very maturely, and keep in mind that he's had a great deal of experience in road course racing. He's been around Monte Carlo, he's been around Long Beach, he's been a lot of the great racetracks in the world that work on close braking, acceleration with walls right next to you. So he's a graunchy kind of driver when he needs to do it, and this is the kind of driving technique that you have to have here at Meadowlands, with only 1.2 miles around, with the close proximity of the walls in some very slow corners.
And he always drove well at the old course here. Emerson Fittipaldi, one of only 6 drivers to compete in all of the Grand Prix here at the Meadowlands. This is number 5. His record's pretty good. He's finished twice. He's finished twice, and he's had a 3rd and a 7th. And right now is leading. Starting from the pole, he finished 12th and 17th. That doesn't bode well, but right now, starting from the pole, he is in 1st.
Well, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes now, and as long as his preparation is all that it usually is, he's absolutely in the right position to win this race. But I've led a lot of races, Charlie, and I can never honestly say that I'm happy until the checkered flag comes out. So there's a lot of miles left in this motor race yet.
And Emerson Fittipaldi with that Chevrolet, it's a Chevy Indy V8 that has been running so well. In fact, that engine has won every IndyCar race this year. I mean, they've got a sweep going. And I asked him when we were talking yesterday, you know, what's the difference in this year and last year? They said this year we're finishing. Last year we ran strong. We ran very quickly, but we didn't finish. And here's Theo Fabi, who is currently in 3rd. Little Al Unser Jr. is in 2nd. So it's Fittipaldi, Little Al, Theo Fabi, Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan, Rick Mears, Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal is 8th, Scott Pruitt is 9th. A.J. Foyt has now moved up to 10th, and is Rocky Moran, and Scott Brayton is in 12th. The separation just over 14 seconds for Al Unser Jr. So he's picking up some time on Emerson Fittipaldi.
Or Emerson Fittipaldi is just giving himself a little bit of cushion. If he's concerned about his brakes, why take a big advantage when, if one yellow flag came out, everybody would stack up behind you? So there's no point in going for an enormous lead unnecessarily. Emerson Fittipaldi's run a few races, and he knows how to pace a race, I think. Young Al Unser is looking hungrily towards the front. He wants to win a lot of races. He'll drive a little harder, perhaps, than Fittipaldi, for example.
Now, with 62 laps of 150 laps complete, you have to realize we're on board with Little Al.
And there he's passing Michael Andretti. There are the 2 young generation drivers, both their fathers in this race, and both the sons racing as it was there, and Little Al being in the lead. Michael Andretti further back today, still a heavy competitor, however, in this classification of racing.
Let me complete my thought. You know there's going to be a yellow between now and the end of the race. So you know that you're going to be, if you're Little Al, you're going to be right behind, right in the tailpipes, the rear view mirror of the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, under the yellow. Could you also conserve what you're doing, just kind of protect your second spot?
Yes, but you're always more nervous if you're in 2nd position. You're always wanting to see the car ahead of you, the one that you're trying to catch, because if you got into real bad traffic, you could drop way back to 20 seconds, even in 1 or 2 laps, if you really got stuck behind the wrong car. So Al Unser Jr. is tempted to drive a little more aggressively than the leader would. But I do believe that he won't be driving at 10/10ths, so to speak, to catch Emerson Fittipaldi, knowing that sooner or later one of those cars will have an incident.
And there you see A.J. Foyt, who, as we have mentioned, was in 12th and now has moved up to 10th. Al Unser Jr.'s last 3 pit stops, including the one here, have been under 15 seconds. 2 very good ones in Toronto, a very quick one here. So the pit crew working exceptionally good for Little Al.
A.J. Foyt, a legend, a living legend in motor racing.
Let's go down to Gary.
The Danny Sullivan kid happens to be NBA superstar Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah, I don't want to say it, but are you really at home down here? I wouldn't expect to see you at one of these events.
No, I'm a little out of place, but I'm enjoying the action.
What do you like about the appeal of the IndyCar?
I think the thing that's amazing me the most is how fast they're in and out of the pit stops. The guys are changing 4 tires and filling up a car in less than 17 seconds. That's amazing.
Well, you're a great athlete. Ever want to drive one of these things?
No, I just sit back and watch.
Right. Isaiah Thomas enjoying the action of the Meadowlands, Charlie.
Just shows you how smart that man really is. This is the 5th running of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Emerson Fittipaldi continues to lead. We'll be back. We're back at the Meadowlands. Emerson Fittipaldi, who is the leader now, has closed on Danny Sullivan, and if he can pass him, he'll drop him a lap back.
He's looking for a way to get through, but not this time. Danny's not giving him much space, and of course Emerson doesn't want to be imprudent in a situation like this, or he could get himself in trouble. A.J. Foyt, now considering that Danny Sullivan had trouble getting past A.J. Foyt in Toronto, he made some mention of it after the race.
Yes,
we'll see how he gets on here.
Yes, he said that A.J. was blocking him through about 3 corners after Little Al unsurpassed him. He said, I wonder if he was on Little Al's payroll.
Well, I don't know. Certainly A.J. Foyt wouldn't be doing that intentionally, but now in traffic, it's very important for both of those drivers not to do anything silly or impetuous, because if they were to do that, they could write off their whole race. This is why it's so crucial, and there, Emerson Fittipaldi puts a lap on the car of Danny Sullivan.
So we have 4 cars running on the lead lap. Emerson Fittipaldi, Al Unser Jr., Teo Fabi, and Mario Andretti. They are running 1, 2, 3, 4 with Sullivan, Rick Mears, Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal a lap down, then Scott Pruitt, A.J. Foyt, who you just saw, Rocky Moran, Scott Brayton, and Scott Atchison are 2 laps down. Here's the race summary. 75 laps complete. Halfway point. We've had 2 leaders, 2 lead changes. Average speed 101 miles an hour. 1 caution for 5 laps with 7 cars out of the race. And these are the cars out of the race. A couple of crashes, a mechanical suspension engine, another suspension, a gearbox. Andretti, that of course is John Andretti. Daley Holmes, Coyne, Tays, Lyondike, and Al Unser Sr.'s out with the gearbox.
And this is
on board with Al Unser Jr. Yes, it's great audio here. Let's listen as he goes through the whole course. And Jackie, you can tell us exactly what he's doing.
Well, just let's listen in just a second. You'll hear one thing about him. He doesn't jump gears from, let's say, 5th gear to 3rd gear. He goes through the gearbox. Let's just listen to our audio, because NBC's got this one right. On and off the throttle, now accelerating along into 4th, into 5th. Now listen to this as he goes down through the box. Now he's in 2nd gear. He'll go up a gear right here into 3rd gear. Back into 2nd for the slow chicane. Now listen to him going through the gears here. And now he's in 5th gear. The noise you heard was the car going over the bumps. You can hear the noise going up and down. Down into 3rd gear again. Lovely audio. Jaws, it makes me envious of him in that car.
Little Al start to finish, 1982 to 1987. And in 88, a pair of wins this year. All of his victories, all 6, have been on road courses, and we're on a road course today. At what point in your career do you have to stop thinking about going through the gearbox? Is it automatic?
It's automatic because God gives you a gift, which is a natural talent. But, you know, as you develop that talent, as you massage it or you manicure it, you get all the little subtleties of your racing, and you're able to think more clearly, like in any other sport. It gives you time to do things that perhaps are more important, so you can eliminate the unnecessary interruptions of your mind. Sometimes Sometimes that's gear changing, other times it's other matters. And you can dedicate yourself to the subtleties of braking and the subtleties of smooth acceleration. Fittipaldi has been in the business for such a long time. He has that feel, he has that knowledge. Many drivers get lots of experience. From that, they should get knowledge. And if they're very lucky, they get maturity from those two aforementioned titles. Fittipaldi has matured into a very worthy champion.
One of the parts of maturity is learning when to use the brakes, when to lay off, because the brake's so important here. That you mentioned it's one of the keys.
Yes, it's more important how you take the brakes off than when you put them on. Because
explain.
As you go racing into a corner, you can leave your braking to the very last moment, as he might do going up to this third gear corner, this Mears corner. As he brakes into this corner, you can see young Al's right up behind Rick Mears there. As you go into a corner, you've got to brake very heavily. But it's when you come off the brakes that matters, because that gives you the corner speed that you're really looking for.
And here is Little Al behind Rick Mears. Little Al is in second, Rick Mears is in sixth, and he is a lap down.
They both have our cameras on their cars.
Maybe they could take shots of each other, and he's going to take him on the inside.
And he's blocked them too, because he did that well. He used that very intelligently. And there's the other camera.
We just switched cameras. Don Omar, our director, going from car to car.
That's wonderful. The technology in this business of television now, to have an on-board camera in both of those cars, it's wonderful to be able to see it. It brings the public right close to it. And there you see Little Al lapping another car.
J.D. Hansen, our producer, has now put us back into the car cam. And here, let's listen to this audio again. I'm fascinated by this audio.
There he's changing up. That's fourth gear. That's fifth gear. You hear the engine revs change. Now listen for this. Braking. That was from fifth to third to fourth to second gear. Now he's accelerating. Third gear. Now he's back into second. Now listen to the engine note here as he goes over bumps.
We'll be back with more of our coverage in just a moment. We're back at the Meadowlands, and that's Teo Fabi, who was in third and has come to a stop, and he's put the steering wheel out, and he's closing the shop.
And indeed, that's the end of the day for him. That's Al Holbert that you're looking at in the pits. There's Teo Fabi. He's taken the steering wheel off his car to remove himself more easily. That's Al Holbert, who is running this operation.
And the Porsche's really been running well this week. They thought they'd caught up. They'd had problems earlier this year. It's not to be.
And the first qualifying, they were on the pole for the first qualifying session. A very disappointed team. Teo Fabi disappointed. Also Holbert and Helmut Flegel, who's over here from Porsche, now coordinating the Porsche effort. It looks like the car's dropped off to the left side.
Let's go down to Gary.
Well, we're down here, and Al Holbert has, of course, just learned of it. I don't know if he's had any radio communication. Al, was there any word on the radio from Teo as to what the problem is?
No, he just mumbled a few things which we couldn't understand, and I understand he got out of the car.
We understand that there is fluid coming from the rear of the car. Would that lead you to suspect anything in particular?
Well, for sure. I mean, he must know it's a permanent failure, so perhaps an engine, perhaps transmission, we don't know.
Boy, it's got to be a disappointment, because you had showed so strongly, and I know you hoped that this was going to be one of those breakthrough weekends, and you ran very competitively all day.
Well, very, and our guys did a great job. We got ourselves out in front of Mario and Danny, and I think Teo was running very consistent laps with a leader, but we'll try again.
All right, Al Holbert, you can sense and you can feel the disappointment down here in the Porsche pit, Charlie.
And a shame for the Porsche pit. They have been running so well. Let's go back in time and see if we can pick him up when he came to that slow stop.
Well, it does look to me like it was an engine problem. He's already pulled off line here. You can see him. He's always down the escape road. He has recognized that there's a major problem. When a driver does that, it's something very wrong that's happened. Something's broken loose inside the engine. And what happens is that in this particular case, our suggestion is it may be the gearbox. There is Teo Fabi. The fluid that you saw coming out from behind that car, that's normal heat. That would normally be water draining out over the overflows, so you can never think that it's definitely engine, but our report so far is gearbox.
And And there is Emerson Fittipaldi. He has now led for 86 laps, and that means he has led for the most laps. That's another bonus point. He picked one up for being on the pole position. He hadn't won, but he has already picked up 2 points. Let's go down to Sally.
Emerson Fittipaldi's goal this year is to win the CART National Championship, and if he does that, he'll be only the 2nd driver in the history of the sport to win not only the IndyCar Championship, but the World Driving Championship as well. But as motivated as Emerson is, he said racing has to be more than just winning. It has to be a lot of fun as well. When 2-time world driving champion Emerson Fittipaldi isn't, as he puts it, driving fast in his Indy car, then he's driving fast in his speedboat near his home in Miami Beach. This world traveler and speaker of 5 languages has pared down his jet-set lifestyle since coming to the Indy cars in 1984. Emerson had hoped to find a more relaxed atmosphere on the IndyCar circuit. Now, 4 years and as many Indy wins later, he hasn't been disappointed.
Ambience that each one hits each other. You hate. You look to the other one and say, oh, I'm going to get you tomorrow. You think about, you know, this. And for sure in IndyCar race, after the practice, after the race, we talk, we discuss, and it's a big family. And it's really great. I mean, it's a completely different ambience.
If camaraderie is what IndyCar racing has given this 41-year-old Brazilian, Emerson has returned the favor by bringing an international interest, flair, and flamboyance to the American sport. His life does not slow down off the track.
Sometimes between races when I'm not tested, I fly back to Brazil for work. I travel a lot. I travel average about 250 hours on airplanes every year. I think it helps a lot on balance, to find the right balance between the private life and the professional life. And I always try to have the children and my wife around me as much as I can. It's like recharge the battery.
And to Emerson Fittipaldi, that recharging the batteries has been the key to his success in doing what he says he does best: drive fast. He said he's due for a win. After all, he's the only driver here with a Chevy engine that is yet to win an IndyCar race. He says he's due, and due date may be today. Charlie?
You may be right, Sally, and he's looking for that first win in just over a year. It was Toronto '87 was his last IndyCar victory. And he's still very comfortably in front, just over 14 seconds.
Yes, driving with the kind of pacing that you would expect from a man of this experience. After that shopping spree in New York, he no doubt has to earn part of that $700,000 plus that are up here. If he wins the race, it's $97,000 in the pocket. And for a Scotsman, that's a lot of money, but even for a Brazilian, it must mean a lot.
I'll tell you, for a La Jolla, it's a lot of money, too. When you got weddings coming up, you know it counts. Let's follow Emerson all the way around. You tell me what he is doing right. He is so smooth today.
Well, let's look at him as he comes out this corner. He's not using too much road. He's not getting too close to the wall, because if something goes wrong or you hit a bump the wrong way, you can easily kiss the wall with a tire or a wheel, therefore breaking the wheel and, of course, puncturing the tire. So when you're leading like this, you don't go as close to the wall. You're not really on the limit to the same extent as you would be. See, he leaves a little bit of space there. He probably leaves about 2 feet, 24 inches of space, rather than rubbing the car very close to the wall for the last thousandths of a second. So when you're leading, you know when to do that. And it's a funny thing. When you've got a cushion like that, you start to relax your driving, and quite often you go faster because you're driving slower. You're not working the car quite so hard. It's a little bit like the reins of a horse. If you let those reins go a little bit, the horse will run more freely. It'll allow its head to move and it'll breathe more easily. Racing cars are very like animals.
Emerson Fittipaldi continues to run free, and we'll be back in just a moment with our coverage of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. We're back at the Meadowlands. Danny Sullivan has come into the pit.
And here you see a low shot of these fellas really doing a very important job here.
Let's go down to Gary.
Charlie, he was in earlier than the other crews. This should be the final stop. They're very concerned about fuel consumption. It's a good stop. 14.7 seconds for Danny Sullivan. The leader's yet to come in.
He's going to have to run 50-plus laps, so on this fuel stop. Can he do it?
That's another question. I don't know what his fuel consumption is at the moment. There's a yellow and red flag out. That means that somebody's dropped some oil, and there's a slipperiness of the circuit. This is where the marshals are so important.
And you saw Emerson Fittipaldi right behind Danny Sullivan.
And he puts another lap on him, it looks like.
He does. Through the short chute now, to the chicane.
Because keep in mind that Sullivan has brand new tires. They're cold, and it takes about 3 laps to get the tire temperatures up so that they work efficiently. So he'll have to take it a little slowly for these first 2 laps, Sullivan will.
Emerson Fittipaldi averaging almost 108 miles an hour. There's Michael Andretti. Michael currently is running 5th, but he is a lap down, along with Rick Mears, who is 4th, also a lap down. And now Michael closing on Danny Sullivan. Let's see what he can do. Now Sullivan starts to pull away from him.
Michael nearly got his nose trapped there with his front wing hitting the back of Danny Sullivan's car. I think it gave him a little bit of a fright. And I think he suddenly took a breath, and it's just taken him another little beat to get back in timing again. And Michael...
Rocky Moran has come sliding against the wall, and he has stopped. That's in the short chute coming out of the Andretti turn and before the arena chicane. And that's just about on the line, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's definitely on the racing line. The yellow flag being waved at the top end to warn the drivers there's a hazard, and they've got to slow up and move over. They, of course, cannot pass in that area, but the full yellow is not yet on.
Or is that the end of the chicane before you come out, right before the pit start? Maybe there.
It looks like there.
And so Rocky Moran strolls away, and we are now under a full yellow. Yes, here it comes out. It's going to be a full course yellow, and that means that everybody will close up on Emerson Fittipaldi, who has led all but what, 3 laps, and has just run away with it.
This is one of the frustrations of the regulation that allows the full yellow to come in, and there Fittipaldi comes into the pits.
We also have a report that on Mario's last pit stop, the rear air jack malfunctioned. It is still not working right, and they have a manual model ready, just like at your local gas station as we go down to Sally.
Mario Andretti, our first place leader, into the pits. They've changed all 4 tires. They're giving him a load of fuel, putting the fuel into the tank. They hit Mario on the head. He puts the car in gear, and Mario is off.
And Emerson Fittipaldi clears the pits and heads back to the race.
So Emerson came in under a yellow, which of course is to his advantage. So he's out there fully tanked up now. So he's in good shape. It won't take them long to clear up this car, I shouldn't think. So this will not be a long yellow.
We have 102 laps complete and a couple more laps from the yellow. So comfortably, that means that Emerson Fittipaldi has enough fuel to make it. Here's Rick Mears. And he drops down off of the jack. He is currently running 4th and is a lap down. So we have Emerson Fittipaldi, Little Al Unser, and Mario Andretti all running on the lead lap. Just 3 cars on the lead lap. And we're on board with Little Al.
That last change of engine note that you heard was him riding over a bump.
He's kind of hustling around under a full course yellow, is he not?
Well, he's trying, I suppose, to make up a little space. Here we go, and we see a replay. Now, look, the car just went right off there. Rocky just seemed to push out, and the car just went right out into the wall there and smacked into that wall. Very lucky. In fact, we had a situation very close to this that Arie Luyendyk did, and there's no injury, obviously, to Rocky Moran. You saw him walk away. Arie had an accident, and look at that car smashing in there. That wheel could actually get into the side of into the cockpit. That's what happened. We've seen that
happened with Kevin Colgan last week.
Happened last weekend with Kevin Colgan, and it certainly happened with Harry Lyondike. He didn't have any injuries, but Kevin Colgan has broken his arm in 2 places from his Toronto accident. But the safety in these racing cars is so much better today than it's ever been in the past.
We're still under a full course yellow, so we'll be going away for a moment. This is the Meadowlands Grand Prix, 5th edition. We'll be back. 108 laps of 150 laps complete. We're looking to come back to the green. Emerson Fittipaldi leading. Al Unser Jr. is sitting right behind him, courtesy of the yellow. And then it's Mario Andretti. 3 cars on the lead lap, and the green flag is out. And Unser is right behind Emerson Fittipaldi as they come down the stadium straight and head for Mears Corner.
We're going to get a lot more traffic again because this is no pushover getting through these other cars. So look how tight it's going to be. Mario Andretti, we saw in the picture, he's up there. Danny Sullivan was ahead in there. Emerson Fittipaldi pushes through. That's the red and white car. You've got to look for him. Little Al Unser is right on his tail, absolutely glued to him.
Who do you like in this battle?
I think young Al could be very aggressive here because he's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. And look, there was 3 cars side by side in a very narrow racetrack. This could all be very dicey. Look for a pass here for young Al Unser, using all the road and being very aggressive against a more experienced driver who will use the road for this next lap, not giving him very much space, I can promise you.
And Fittipaldi has been running so well. They're running to some back markers, though.
Now, this is where going down to Andretti turn, where it would be a logical place, but Little Al is not just close enough to him, but look how Fittipaldi was using the center of the road. Little Al took advantage of that, and he's right glued to his tail again. And he's trying for a move. Can he do it? He's done it!
Took it. Emerson went right into the wall, to the tires and the wall. And that is right through the chicane.
Well, it was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed enthusiasm, I'm afraid, and that was the situation of Little Al there. He took the opportunity, and we're certainly going to yellow there. Fittipaldi could easily have hurt his legs because that was a heavy impact. He hit the tires. They're still looking. They're disgusted. They're concerned. He's not out of the car. These are the rescue people who are looking. Fittipaldi's already taken the steering wheel off. He's moving around. He's okay, but he could certainly have damaged his feet and ankles. That was a heavy impact, Charlie.
And we're under full course yellow.
And that was a coming together. Little Al took advantage there. He went where maybe angels would fear to tread, but he just put himself into a position where there was no room left for Emerson Fittipaldi. He locked up his brakes. You can see the brake lines there, the rubber marks there. He slammed into the tire first of all and then into the wall. There's the replay. Now, watch Little Al here. He comes in the inside. Emerson doesn't expect him to do that. He's alongside. He's side by side, but not quite far enough. They collide there, and Fittipaldi is shot straight in to that wall there. That was heavy impact. Now, Fittipaldi will almost certainly say that Little Al is to blame.
From a driver's standpoint, who is to blame?
Well, this is a different angle of the same accident, and you can see Little Al took advantage coming out of that other corner. He ran up on him. Emerson was taking the traditional line. Little Al certainly accelerated at that point, and really it would be a hard call to say who was wrong.
Is there a right-of-way? Is there a right-of-way?
Well, there generally is. Look at this. Emerson's out the car, and he's now shaking his fist at Little Al as he went past there. There is an angry Brazilian.
That's the bad news. The good news is he's okay.
Yes, and I think that we can think of ourselves being very fortunate with, and this is another declaration of how safe those cars are.
All right, let's go down to the pit. Sally's there.
Gary Rovazini, Emerson's crew chief. Gary, we always hate to do interviews like this. Emerson was running so well. What happened?
Well, we really don't know. All we heard was him and Little Al had contact. That's all we know at the moment. It sounded like Little Al might have gave him a slide job. That's all we know at the moment.
One thing that most people don't know is that Emerson did have a clutch problem, didn't he?
Yes, he did, but that wasn't our concern. He knows how to shift very well, and I feel that that wouldn't have been any kind of problem we had today.
Very disappointing for Gary Rovazini and the whole Emerson Fittipaldi team. Thank you, Gary. Charlie?
Thank you, Sally. Is it the luck of the draw? Is it? from a driver's standpoint? Take it from both sides. Take it first from Emerson's side, then take it from Little Al's side.
Well,
with your experience.
I think Emerson is definitely going to say that that would not have been a place that he would have chosen to pass any driver. Little Al obviously recognized that he had a considerable advantage. Now, because Emerson was having a gear change problem with his clutch, potentially he could have been a little slow at engaging third gear and then getting back into second gear for that chicane area. But if we get an interview from him right now, that will be a steamy interview. But for Little Al, he would turn around and say, look, there was a gap there, the road was open to me, and I'm going to make the effort. And there is the man.
And when it is, and from the replay, you really can't tell. We'll be back to dissect this in depth in just a moment from the Meadowlands. As we come back to green, 116 laps complete. Mario Andretti is only 2 cars behind Little Al Unser. And there is Little Al, and then you see Rick Mears. No, he's 3 cars back.
Yeah, but there's only 2 cars separating them, but they're 2 quite fast motor cars. He's ducking inside now.
That's Bobby Rahal and Rick Mears, yes.
Yep, he's getting inside, so he's done Mears. Now he's got to look for Bobby Rahal to move over in the meantime. And that's from Rick Mears' car. You're looking at the white car in front of Mario Andretti, who's in second place, car number 6. Now he's got to get past Rahal before he gets in contact with Al Unser Jr., who's leading this race.
And Al Unser Jr. and Mario Andretti are the only 2 cars running on the lead lap.
And of course, Al Unser Jr. will know where Mario Andretti is. Now watch Mario. He'll stop Rahal here. He'll try and get him under braking going into Andretti turn. Let's see if he can do it. He's probably not close enough on this lap. He's not going to do it.
Now let's go down to Sally, and she's with Emerson Fittipaldi. Sally?
As you can imagine, a very disappointed Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson, everything was working so well for you, and then what happened?
I mean, everybody saw on TV. Al Jr. tried to pass me on an impossible place. Even when we are lapping cars on that place, it's impossible to pass. And we are dicing for position. He went on the inside. I couldn't believe he was trying to go there. And when I arrived the corner, I turned because I never expected him to be there. And he threw me on the wall. I mean, luckily I'm not hurt, but that's it. The race is gone. I never thought that Al Jr. would do something like that. You know, he has enough experience now.
There's also a question of whether you even had a clutch toward the end of your time on the track. Was there a problem for you, or was everything working well?
Yeah, the clutch was okay. I could get out of the pit all right. I had no problem. It was just, I just couldn't believe the way he tried to pass me.
How angry are you at Little Al? You shook your fist at him as you went.
I mean, for sure. I mean, I could be now in the hospital, not here walking, talking to you.
Thank you, Emerson. A very disappointed Emerson Fittipaldi, as you could see.
And when you listen to his words and you look at the picture, you have to agree with him. I'm not saying he's right, but when you listen to the words and you look at the picture, you have to agree.
Well, Little Al was going for a gap that he saw. He's young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and full of enthusiasm, and he's a race driver. I understand Emerson. I would have not expected Emerson Fittipaldi to try and pass Al Unser Jr. in a similar set of circumstances. But where you're looking at youth and not as much experience, quite frankly, the moment was taken by young Al, and he went for it. Now, it may not have been the wisest move for him, but right now he's leading the motor race, so where can we argue?
No, I'm not arguing.
But Emerson
is.
And I understand why he's a very angry young man, and of course he's a lucky man to survive it all.
As we come back to racing, Al Unser Jr. is leading. Mario Andretti is running second. They are the only 2 cars on the lead lap. A lap down. In third place is Rick Mears. Danny Sullivan is in 4th. 2 laps down. Bobby Rahal is in 5th. Then it's Michael Andretti. 6 laps back. Boy, there's a big jump. From 2 laps down to 6 back. Scott Brayton is 7th. John Jones, the rookie from Thunder Bay, Canada, is in 8th. Scott Atchison, the rookie, running so well this year. He is driving the Otter Pops car. He is in 9th. Tony Bittenhausen, hey, he has moved up to 10th in a car that hasn't been that competitive. And for Domino's Pizza in 11th is Raul Boisel in the 30 car.
Well, Mario Andretti doesn't seem to be losing much ground in Al Unser Jr. right now. He doesn't seem to be making it up either. Whether Al Jr. is driving as hard as he could at this stage, I don't know. This race is not by any means over. Keep in mind that this is a very short track, only 1.2 miles around. A missed gear change could make that gap nothing.
think about Little Al's car. Now, he was in a bumping or a collision or contact with Emerson Fittipaldi. Is there the possibility of something happening to his car because of that?
Well, there could be a misalignment of wheels. Luckily, it seemed to me that it was the rear wheel that came in more in contact with Fittipaldi's car than the front wheel. There's a lot more to go wrong on the front end of a racing car. It's not as heavy. It's not the wishbones and the steering arms are more delicate. And if he had hit heavily in the front end, now you could have had wheel alignment disturbed. But I don't think that's the case as we look at the white car of Mario Andretti trying to get those precious yards back from Fittipaldi.
Juxtaposition of what had happened. Fittipaldi had the lead. He's the veteran. Little Al, the young man, the Tiger, he took it. He's now running first. But the veteran now, Mario Andretti, is chasing the youngster, Little Al Unser. So it's all been reversed.
Oh, yes, and I think the veteran Andretti has probably got more experience than anyone else in this racetrack, with the possible exception of A.J. Foyt. But Andretti is running up front, and he is certainly within reach of Al Unser Jr.
Al Unser Jr., Little Al's pits, they have really been eccentric. Gary Gerald is down there. Let's go down. Gary?
Well, the man who owns the car, the team, who calls the shots is Rick Gallus. Rick, give us an update on your situation. And know you're delighted because you're now running first.
Well, it's still going to be a hard race. Mario's behind us, but he's done a great job today. And I can't say, so much about the crew because they did 2 perfect pit stops. So things look pretty good right now.
Now, I know you haven't had an opportunity to see any replays relating to the incident with Fittipaldi, and I would imagine you'd be anxious because there are accusations that your driver cut Fittipaldi off.
He might have, Gary, but, I know that Al's not normally like that. If he did, he didn't mean to do it. So it's racing, and, I'm not going to worry about that right now. That's their problem.
Now, before you get away, the fuel situation, everybody has been saying how critical it could be. How do you feel?
Well, the yellows helped us, and I don't think that's a problem.
All right. They're happy at the moment, as well you might expect. They're looking at possibly a 2nd straight win.
And meanwhile, Mario Andretti is coming by John Jones, and he continues to stalk the leader, Little Al Unser.
And he's certainly closing up on Little Al because of that traffic. The other 2 lead cars, that car there you're seeing now, number 3, with number 6 right behind it. Little Al got a good break there with traffic. Andretti getting round there, but perhaps not quite as easily as Little Al. That's where the incident occurred earlier on between Al and Fittipaldi. Look how close Andretti is.
At the beginning of the show, we had some videotape from David Letterman's show earlier this week when Little Al was a guest, and David Letterman said, how are you going to do at the Meadowlands? He said, we're going to smoke him. And the crowd cheered. Everybody applauded him. And right now he is, but it is this man, Mario Andretti, who is stalking Little Al Unser.
Well, he's a man of great experience. I've driven against Mario Andretti many times. He is one of the most aggressive drivers that you can race against. I'll tell you what, Mario Andretti would not have let Little Al do to him a few laps back what Emerson allowed him to do. He would have closed the door a lot more aggressively. He's not a man that's easy to pass, and he is a man who will find a way to pass. I think you're going to see some exciting racing in these last laps here at the Meadowlands.
Going back to the accident for a moment, what would have happened if Emerson Fittipaldi would have turned back into Little Al, saying, this is my line?
Well, I think what would have happened is he would have anticipated, he could have seen Little Al coming in earlier, and if that had happened, it might have been different.
Michael Andretti down the front straight, slowing down. 2nd time that he has slowed down in the race. Go ahead.
Well, I think what would have happened is Mario would have not allowed the line open, left open, for anybody to overtake him in those circumstances. I do believe that Emerson just allowed too much light to be seen for that corner, and Little Al saw the light, and like any young driver, took the initiative. I do believe, as I said when we recalled it, that it was a place where angels may be fearing to tread. And I think it's a very delicate balance whether he should have done that move or not. I think it could only have been done with a younger driver.
What about the fact that this is a new race course designed for, so more spectators could come out and have a better sightline? And we've had tremendous crowds here, but it's a new race course, so the drivers do not have that much mileage under their belt on this race course.
Not only that, the groove in which they were both driving, when Fittipaldi went wide, being pushed out of the groove by young Al, he got on what we call in racing the marbles. That's what is being washed aside from the groove. It may be bits of rubber, it may be little particles of the racetrack itself. And when he got onto that these marbles, it really allows the car to slide out more easily. You can't control it. The brakes don't work so well. The tires don't grip. And that's why he went slamming into that wall. Again, I say, only because of the improved safety in those cars that are deformable structures today did Fittipaldi survive without foot or leg injuries.
Mario Andretti chasing little Al Unser and begins to close on him, as you can see. Mario has always run well. He won the first Meadowlands Grand Prix in 1984. He has won 3 of 5 poles, and he was on the first row here today outside.
We spoke earlier about the snooker job, the other sports where you mark somebody up for where you are about to try and make your next move. This is what Mario Andretti is doing now. He's stalking little Al to find where on the racetrack his strategy will play. It's more likely to occur going into Andretti corner, ironically. That's the most likely place for him to do it. In order for him to do that, however, he has to get fairly close to him now, but more importantly, he has to make a good run at Mears curve that they're coming up to right now. Let's see how quickly he can get through that and how close he can get to little Al leaving this corner here.
And they just breeze by Michael Andretti, Mario's son, and here's little Al's return to form, the 1987 season, the 7 races in 1988 with a pair of victories. If he wins today, of course, it would naturally be his 3rd, but it would be the 2nd back-to-back victory of the year, as Rick Mears won at Indy and also at Milwaukee.
And of course, if little Al won here, he would take the lead in the CART Championship.
Yes, because he is right now in 2nd place behind Danny Sullivan. And Sullivan is a lap down, running in 4th place right now. This is the 5th running of the Meadowlands Grand Prix. It is Mario Andretti chasing Al Unser Jr. Back to the Meadowlands. Here is the race summary. 135 of 150 laps complete. 2 leaders, 3 lead changes. Average speed, caution free for 18, and 12 cars are out of the race. Today's attendance over $40,000. Out of the race, John Andretti, Daley Holmes, Coyne, Days, Lyondike is out. Al Unser Sr. and Teo Fabi. They are all out of the race at this point. The story of the race, though, is, oh, here's more. A.J. Foyt is out, Pruitt is out, and you saw the other 2. The story to this point, it is the situation, crash, bump, whatever you want to call it right now, between Emerson Fittipaldi, who's leading, and Al Unser Jr., who came past him in the chicane.
Well, the cars are so strong that we were allowed to see Emerson Fittipaldi step out of this accident. Let's look at the impact that he had here. Crashed into these tires and then into that wall. How he wasn't injured, who knows?
Well, one of the reasons, oh yeah, he is very upset, shakes his fist when little Al went by him, but one of the reasons that he was not injured is these cars collapse when they go against the wall. We've seen that happen. They kiss the wall. Now, Jackie talked with R.A. Lyondike, who went against the wall, and we've got a feature, but we got a pass, and it is Mario Andretti who has now taken the lead from little Al Unser. Hold the feature. Mario is now in 1st place.
He has indeed. He stopped him well. I didn't think he was going to do it this early. I thought he would wait. Little Al must have made a mistake of some kind to allow Mario to get him so quickly and just get through. But that was indeed a surprise to me that he was able to do that quite as rapidly.
Advantage or disadvantage to lead or to be the chaser at this point?
Well, I always like to lead. I mean, personally, I like to set the pace and I have a clear road ahead of me. When I'm behind another car, the turbulence of the other car can affect my car aerodynamically. I don't see as much of the racetrack when I'm in 2nd place. I'm having to see around the car in front with a high wing, and as low as we are in racing cars today, that can be a hazard, particularly around such a tight circuit with the walls and so forth. So I would personally have chosen certainly to be in the lead.
11 laps to go.
And this is little Al, by the way, who's behind Michael Andretti. And Michael moves over, even because Daddy's in the lead. He did do the gentlemanly thing.
And you saw them come right at the arena chicane, and that is where the accident took place. But Mario Andretti now pulling away from little Al. I'm wondering if something is not working completely right on the car because of the crash with Emerson Fittipaldi.
Well, no, I think he went well enough immediately after that.
All right, let's go back. This is the pass.
And it is, in fact, coming into Andretti corner that the pass was made. Little Al tried to close the door, but the more experienced driver snookered him in such a position that he could not retaliate. And that's the secret of passing.
From this point on, of course, as we have been, they'll be running into a lot of traffic. Is there an advantage to the experience of Mario because of the traffic that he'll now have to work his way through and has been working his way through? He now comes on Bobby Rahal.
Oh, yes. Mario Andretti's passed a lot more cars in his career than Alonso Jr. And
thousands of more.
Exactly. And, you know, when you've banked that bit of knowledge, you use it to your advantage. So you will see the old boy here doing it well. Nevertheless, you've got to think of that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed enthusiasm that we were talking of earlier.
That's Ludwig Heimrath Jr. that he ran right up behind, and now he loses a little bit of time. And he gets around him, and as Little Al has closed some on him because of that traffic. And they head up the stadium straight towards Mears Corner.
And if Little Al's going to pass him, he'll run up on him here and try and get him coming in to Andretti's curve, but not this time, I don't think. He's not quite close enough.
And you can see Wetland straight as they go. And we have a car. Is that Danny Sullivan? I'm not sure. I can't see for sure, but we have somebody. No, that's car number 55. That's Scott Atchison, who has come to a stop on the race course. And that'll be only a local yellow.
But in fact, Little Al did make a run at Mario Andretti going into Andretti corner there. And that's where we've seen the action all day long with regards to passing. So just sit in your seats, because I think we've a lot more excitement coming up. Look how close Little Al has been. I think Little Al must have had something go wrong. He must have made a mistake. He might have got himself a little unsettled. And there you see a yellow. Now
that's the local yellow because of Scott Atchison, I'm sure.
He can't pass under that yellow.
And there is Scott Atchison, the outer Pops car.
And his car has been pushed away. It was running there in about 3 or 4 cylinders. It was still popping and banging. I could hear the audio there. We've been picking up great audio here.
We have a report from Little Al's crew, and they say that the car is okay. That's what he says on the radio from aboard car number 3, now second, chasing first.
This race isn't over, believe me.
144 laps complete out of 150. So we have 6 to go.
Little Al is using a little more road than Mario Andretti as he goes round this racetrack. A little closer to the wall on the exit of that great sweeper.
And as this goes on, let's go down to Salad.
We mentioned earlier how superstitious the Andretti pit is. Well, here's an example. When Mario passed into the first place, Paul Newman started jumping up and down. He was very happy, but the team manager, Tyler Alexander, turned around and shook his finger at him and said, no, don't do that. Tyler is very superstitious. He doesn't like the PA to announce that they're in the lead. He doesn't want to know anything about it until the race is over. Charlie?
Well, that was Carl Haas, and the fellow in the blue hat was Tyler Alexander, who's had a great deal of experience around the world in motor racing, the Indianapolis and Grand Prix racing, and almost everything you can think of. Can-Am with the original Bruce McLaren himself. Tyler was one of the original men. There's Carl Haas, a man I used to drive for. He's had a great lot of big-name drivers drive for him, and that's Tyler Alexander just behind.
Will be decided between Mario Andretti and Al Unser Jr., the only 2 cars running on the lead lap. Let's go down to Garrett.
Now, Charlie, we checked in with Rick Gallus once again. He's here on the pit wall. They're disappointed they're now second, but we asked to make sure that there was nothing wrong with the car. He said, no, we're okay. I think it was traffic when we got past. In fact, they just ran a lap at 39.7 seconds. That's 1 1/4 seconds off the qualifying time that put him on the pole, or put Fittipaldi on the pole. So the pace is furious as Little Al stalks Andretti.
And Mario now coming on Danny Sullivan, one of the 2 Penske cars. Rick Mears is running 3rd and Sullivan is running 4th, but they're both a lap down.
But in fact, Andretti lost a little bit of time there. He tried to get under Danny Sullivan going into Mears' turn and wasn't able to do it, but now he's getting through, and Little Al's with him. My gosh, Little Al is so close. Al's front wings could easily have been run over by Andretti there. This is something that he's going to look out for, and as he exited from that corner, you also saw how much more of the road Little Al was using. That means he's driving the car a lot harder, so it could be that any small error of judgment could be very expensive to Little Al.
Tries to come under him once again, and Mario shuts the door.
And what's that?
Mario is slowing down.
Big trouble.
The bad luck continues to stalk Mario Andretti.
Paul Newman can't believe it. And there is our new leader once again, Al. And there's somebody hit the wall.
Boiselle hit the wall down the front straight. Jones and Mears coming behind him. And then the leader, Little Al, as we'll have a white flag for one lap to go. And that is the 30 car Raul Boiselle Domino's Pizza that stopped against the wall.
Again without any injury. Again a
There was no yellow. There was no yellow.
Yes, he hit the wall very hard. He must have hit the wall there. I estimate he hit the wall there at well over 100 miles an hour, probably close to 130 miles an hour. And again, he just seems to have creeped his way. Mario Andretti is in the meantime driving slowly around the racetrack. There's a front wing lying in the front of the front stretch that I can look down. The front wing will have to be picked up by one of the officials here.
And now the checker flag for the winner, Little Al Unser. Back-to-back victories, his third on the year. And disappointment, that of course is Paul Newman, and he is one of the car owners of Mario Andretti, and it was ever so close. So there's jubilation in one pit and disappointment in another.
Well, it looked like it was only 2 laps to go, really, maybe 3 laps to go when that occurred, and I don't think it may have been running out of gas. It could have been that.
Paul, by the way, drove yesterday and drove very well. Did not complete the race. Everybody loves to come out and watch him drive. And the victory lap for Al Unser Jr.
Bobby Rahal driving alongside there, congratulating.
And we'll be back in just a moment. He wins last week at Toronto, and he wins today at the Meadowlands. Let's go down to Gary Jarrell.
The helmet off, the earplugs come out. Here's a very tired young second-generation race driver who's just won 2 in a row. Congratulations from the crew. This one was tough, and I know it's got to be a great feeling to win 2, but the critical aspect was the contact and the pass with Emerson Fittipaldi. What happened there, Al?
Well, what happened, you know, it was a sad thing that Emo ended up where he ended up, but he had made a mistake earlier on in the hairpin at the end of the straightaway, went a little bit wide. That enabled me to set him up for the right-hander. I got up next to him, and he decided to go ahead and go in the corner with me. And there was just one room for one car, and I was turning, but my front end broke away and made contact with Emo, and then Emo didn't have anywhere to go. You know, it's a sad thing. You know, we were wanting to race, but you know, that's racing, and he made the decision to go ahead and go in the corner with me, and that's what happened.
Al, the pictures would show that it's a story to the contrary, and I know Emerson was very vitriolic in his remarks and not happy. How do you look at that?
Well, it's racing, you know. I got up alongside of him before he turned in, and so he made his mind rather either to brake and let me go and run the corner wide, or to go ahead and go in there with me, and he decided to go in with me.
Then Mario took the lead away from you. In a lap to go, suddenly he had problems. You end up in victory lane. It's a great capper to another Sunday afternoon. Huh?
Yeah, I just, you know, again, that's racing. That's Mario's bad luck, and you know, his engine started missing there at the end, and that's racing. And so, you know, I just want to thank my team. They did a super job in the pits, and Valvoline and Stroh and
all right,
Tim and everybody.
We appreciate it. We got to get back up to Charlie Jones.
Hey, And Gary, this is the point when Mario Andretti slowed down and was passed by Al Unser Jr., who went on to take the title here. Mario is with Sally. Let's go down to the pits.
As you can imagine, a very, very disappointed Mario Andretti. Mario, it's either very good for you or very bad. You were so close to winning. What happened?
Half shaft let go all of a sudden. It was just a complete surprise because obviously it just let go abruptly, and you know, we had to run very hard, and it's very bumpy, and something had to take its toll. Too bad it had to go that far. It couldn't have lasted another 3 minutes.
Very quickly, what went on through your mind when that happened?
Well, I'm unlucky is lucky. That's simple today.
That about sums it up for Mario Andretti. Charlie?
All right, Sally, and right at the end of the race, Raul Boisel went into the wall down the front straight. As you can see, left off part of his wing, but the yellow did not come out, and racing continued as Little Al went by him with that last lap to go. The final results, Al Unser Jr. wins it. Back-to-back wins. Mario Andretti disappointed, but still second. Rick Mears, a lap down, finishes third. Danny Sullivan, a lap down, fourth. And Bobby Rahal finishes fifth. And so that means, as we look now through 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in this very close race, that means that Al Unser Jr. has taken over the standings by 2 points in the driver's race over Danny Sullivan. Then it's Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti. And that says it all for Paul Newman and for Mario Andretti. It's been a great afternoon here at the Meadowlands for Jackie Stewart, Gary Gerald, Sally Larvick. The sun shining on Little Al, the clouds over Emerson Fittipaldi and Mario Andretti. I'm Charlie Jones. So long, everybody.